Hello everyone and welcome back to IGCSE English. Today we'll be looking at the final theme actually of this playlist and it's the theme of settings and location, settings slash locations really. So yeah, without further ado, I've got an essay plan right here, let's go straight into it. So the first paragraph is actually the natural setting of the ranch when we see at the start when George and Lenny are about to enter the ranch, and actually at the end as well, once kind of Lenny's died. And so the natural setting of the ranch provides contrast to the harsh realities of life on the ranch. For example, the novel begins with like a peaceful setting, only to be disturbed by movement. Disturbed by movements. For example, the initial setting is just twinkling, for example, over the yellow sands in the sunlight. The only movement that you have, for example, is a water heron being chased by a snake. It's a very natural, very calm situation with, for example, as the quote here, it says twinkling over the yellow sands in the sunlight. And yeah, the nature is actually often associated with innocence. Hence, you've seen here, you've got an idyllic setting, and it can be seen to have been likened with the Garden of Eden. And therefore, it's almost a big kind of juxtaposition to the harsh reality of the Great Depression and what the people on the ranch hands have to go through when it comes to the ranch, the long hours, the poor pay, this kind of lack of welfare. But of course, as I was talking about the heron, the heron and the water snake, towards the end of the novel, the calmness actually disappears because that heron that's been chased by the water snake is eventually caught, and it almost provides survival of the fittest type imagery, and it portrays the lives of the itinerant farm workers, the difficulties they have to survive. There's no room for friendship with every man for themselves out there. And as the kind of AF4 again, the description allows for an insight into the nature of the itinerant worker. They're always coming and going when it comes to the setting, because the branch of the sycamore tree actually had been worn smooth by men who had sat on it. Constant migrant, itinerant farm workers that had gone from ranch to ranch searching for jobs, and eventually, due to the impact of the Great Depression. Paragraph 2 is we look at the description of the bunkhouse, and it actually allows for a greater almost portrayal of the harsh situation of ranch hands during the time of the Great Depression. For example, the room is basic, it lacks any comfort except for a black cast iron stove, which basically provides basic warmth, basic warmth, and it just shows the desperation of the situation. There's a table littered with playing cards, showing what farm labourers tend to do, and also George plays solitaire, a game only for one person, again showing a sense of isolation provided by the setting or the location that itinerant farm workers had to go through. And this freedom described, for example, in paragraph 1, the open nature, it almost juxtaposes the claustrophobic nature of the bunkhouse. All there is bunk beds and not bunk beds, but just beds and an iron stove. Really, that's the only real amenity. Maybe the card table, and that's it, compared to the beautiful outdoor aspect. And for example, the town itself is called Soledad. This is a key thing actually, and that means loneliness. A foreshadowing, of not even a foreshadowing, but a real aspect, it provides of the nature of the itinerant farm worker and the impact of the Great Depression. There is no room for friendship in this novel, hence George and Lenny's friendship is against the stereotype, but even that fails at the end, simply showing there's no room for friendship. Paragraph 3, the final paragraph, is you look at Crux's room. It's no more than a shed that leaned off the wall of the barn, and the furniture is even more basic, provided for the ranch hands, and it almost just reflects the racial prejudices, the black people had to go through during the Great Depression. For example, Crux's bed is simply described as a long box filled with straw. The room the room has got broken harnesses and other equipment needed for Crux's jobs as stable book. Basic jobs just to do his job, a bit of broken harnesses. Is full. I'm trying to think of what that meant. Sorry. Is full of broken harnesses, other equipment, and needed for Crook's job. And yeah, it contains a tattered dictionary and a mauled copy of the Californian Civil Rights Code for 1905, showing how the setting on the description of Crooks's room shows how Crooks knows his rights and is well educated. And he has a better education than other ranch hands, but this is important because he has to face a lot of racial prejudices, being the only coloured man at the ranch, and in the hierarchy, he is the lowest. He's in fact lower than Curly's wife, who he threatens Crooks by saying how she could get Crook strung on a tree so easily it wouldn't even be funny, in a reference to lynching. So the condition of Crook's room shows, in terms of the AFY historical context, how black people were segregated due to Jim Crow laws. Crooks could not join the bunkhouse. Even Candy, for example, has a vivid memory of Crook being beaten up in the bunkhouse. And yes, the broken harness could reflect the broken man that Crooks is, his desperation as seen through his desire to join George, Lenny, and Candy's dream. And yep, that is the end of the kind of location and settings theme. As seen here, I have a small section of memories if you just want to read this, really. There's not a lot, if I had to be honest. But if you want to make an essay plan out of this, these are kind of the 4 things that I have. So, yep, thank you very much. And yep, please feel free to subscribe and like this video so we can continue with this channel. Thank you.